How would you react if you were told that you were going to die throughout your entire youth and young adulthood, every several years that you were going to die? We're going to show you how to overcome every obstacle in life when we get back. What is up, my friend? Welcome back to another episode of Mindset Movers. Today we have a good friend of mine, Michael Burke, who was diagnosed with a deadly disease at a young age called cystic fibrosis. He was told that he was going to die every few years of his life growing up in young adulthood. You're also an avid athlete, a life coach, and he is the author of Waiting to Die and Running to Live. Mike, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing great, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, dude, it's a pleasure to have you on. So I'd like to ask you, you've been through quite a bit in your life, and I know people that complain about the smallest things in life that really don't have it that bad in life, and yet here you are, born with a deadly disease, and we're told that you're going to die every few years of your life growing up. Yet you're one of the happiest individuals that I know, and one of the most successful people that I know. What's the secret to your success?
Secret to the success is to be authentically positive. So what I mean by that is, for a long time when people would ask me about my disease, if I told them anything, I would paint this rosy colored picture. Like, oh, it's great, I'm doing great, whatever it was, and you didn't want to talk much about it. So I just painted a rosy colored picture, but underneath of that were a lot of questions I was having about my life. And only when I really faced that life expectancy and the sickness and others dying of the disease all around me did I find my way to authentic happiness, true positive outlook on life.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So I can't even imagine what that feels like, or even begin to. I can only take that and put it in perspective to the feelings that I've been dealt with. Where did you find, we were talking about this, where did you start becoming proactive in that nature, I guess you would say, taking the initiative to focus on the things that you have control over, not the things that you don't have control over?
Yeah, what's interesting about all of our challenges, one, is that although they're different, you and I have had very different lives, very different challenges, but we experience them the same way inside our brain, our mind. So that's the common human connection. So really, where I started to understand my place in the world, where I could thrive, was a long journey, but it started the night that I told my dad I wasn't going to college because I was going to die in 2 years.
Oh crap.
Yeah. So my dad was really quite a positive man himself, and really was a good example to us to strive for things in life. So I tell him this, and he had never heard this from me before, and he leaned over the table and he said, "Bullshit, Michael. You're going to college." And before I could scamper away, he said, "And by the way, you're going to do well." And it just kind of shook me out of this thing. I was using that kind of as an excuse to not think about the future. So it kind of shook it out of me. And what it came to was, okay, I'm a terrible student. I couldn't even get into a 4-year college because I was that bad. But I went on a mission to prove really to myself that I wasn't a dummy. And so I really wasn't interested in a 4-year degree at that point. I was on a mission to prove something to myself. And that really fueled everything I did for 4 years, getting through school and actually doing quite well.
Do you find this mission to prove something to yourself? Is that what's gotten you through defeating these predetermined, you're going to die in a few years, but yeah, you keep going past it? What is that? What's driving you past it? Or what do you think that's just giving you this source of energy and that keeps you going?
So that was a specific mission, if you will, a specific purpose and a specific time in my life. But you hit on a huge driver for success, and that is having some sort of purpose. So that was the purpose of the day, right? For the next 4 years, that was it. I'm not a dummy. And guess what? When I started getting really good grades, I wanted better and better. So it fueled that. And then when I got into the working world, it was my purpose, and it wasn't a good one, but it was it, to try and forget the disease. So I tried to create this very normal life. And I did some really neat things. I had a really successful career going. And then the purpose after that, once I figured out I couldn't be normal because I have nothing near a normal life, my mission, the good mission, the one that's driven me for decades now, was how do I create my life, the life of my choosing, with all of these challenges, these ongoing, ever-changing challenges that I can't avoid. The mission is to create my own life.
That's powerful. Finding your purpose, finding your mission in life, finding your service to give. Really powerful. Real quick, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive even deeper on how you can overcome any obstacle in life that you're faced with. Welcome back, my friends. So, Mike, we touched on a lot of great content there in the first half. Why did you decide to become a life coach?
Well, it's the same reason I decided to write the book. For a long time, people were saying, Mike, you need to write a book. You're living with this disease. You've run 9 marathons and 20 half marathons. There's a story in there. And I waited so long to do that. And then, quite frankly, one of my friends died of my disease. And she was half my age. I'm 47, and she was 23-ish. And I saw her making every mistake I had made at her age, and she paid the ultimate price for those mistakes. And I still to this day don't know how I survived them. So I thought, I'm just so tired of seeing our babies die. I don't know she's not a baby, she's 23, but yeah. You know, we knew her since she was little. And so I felt she was my little sister. And I was so tired of seeing that happen. And then when I would talk to other people about their chronic illness, MS, MD, you name it, we all were making these same decisions, and I didn't want it to stop. So I wrote the book, and I gave a nice little story about how you can overcome, right? Taking 13,000 pills a year and 500 hours of therapy and being older at 30 than your life expectancy. Watching your peers die, I mean, that screws with your mindset. So I just want to give them a story about how just a simple kid from a suburb of St. Louis did it. And then it just wasn't enough. People would ask me, Mike, how did you do that? Were there steps you took? Was there a process? What do you rely on? And so I really started diving into psychological principles, you know, of positivity and what others do who are really genuinely positive people. Successful in their own definition, whether it's a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, or president of a company. I don't care. What are they doing to have this prosperous life? So I started finding those principles, and it matched up right with the themes of my book. And I was so excited because I just wrote it unknowingly as a story of what happened. So it was really neat to see that what people do to overcome wasn't just my experience. So that's when I was like, this is reproducible. It was exciting to know that my existence was reproducible for others to learn from. And I have a special voice within the chronic illness community. I've been there with them. I'm in the trenches with them. So when I give a hard message, it's kind of hard for them to doubt the principles, because I know they will. So it gave me a really special mission, a new mission to coach and help people overcome those really difficult challenges.
Amen, amen. So how do you actually help these people? How do you, your ideal client, how do you help them overcome these obstacles?
So really, we are meant to be amazing people. And we all have this amazing person inside of us. This drive to not just survive, but thrive. And we see the stories everywhere, right, of people overcoming this or that. But what happens, Zach, is life buries that, right? And I call it living bold. Like, I think I can do anything, and I'm going to try anything. Not that I'm going to do it, and it's going to turn out exactly the way I want, but I'm going to try. Nothing's going to stop me. So, but that gets buried, and it got buried in a time for me, like when I told my dad I'd be dead in 2 years. And there was a whole transformation that took 15 years of trial and error. So I help uncover all the shit that happens in life that covers up this bold person inside. And that can be past experiences, present experiences. Mostly, though, the way we think about ourselves and the future. One of the most profound discoveries I made was we think about the future 50% of our existence.
True. I can't even begin to sit and tell you how often I'm sitting there visualizing and planning and writing goals and yeah.
What am I going to do with my kids when they get home from school? What am I going to do with this problem with my wife? What about the problem at work? We're half of our existence we're thinking about the future. And when you have a chronic illness and you're against or beyond your life expectancy, that future looks spooky. So what I help people do is remove those blinders to the future, right? Because that's just life piling up stuff on our vision for the future.
Wow. That is profound, my friends. When we come back, we're going to dive even deeper on how to overcome any obstacle. You know, diving a little bit deeper on what we were just talking about earlier, what you first hit on, having that purpose. You know, I can relate to that so much because when I was going through my dark times in life, when I didn't have any sense of purpose, any direction, and when I was on the drugs, on the heroin, on the crack, in prison for 5 years of my life, you know, I didn't have no sense of purpose, any driving force. And once that all changed, when I had my sons, and it kind of gave me a new light, that new paradigm shift, everything changed in that purpose. Now I'm able to do more and overcome certain things that I wouldn't even be able to take on back then. And I'm able to get through because I have a driving force now. And I think you just touched on it so beautifully about when you found that purpose, you know, that driving force that's driving you past all these times. What did that feel like, though, at the time when you were finding your purpose, and how did that come about? I mean, I know we touched on it.
Yeah. Well, it was actually frustrating and exciting at the same point. How it really happened is on my 30th birthday, I was preparing for a speech to a fundraiser for my disease. And I'd been pushing that away. Right? I didn't want to think about all that. So I didn't know what the life expectancy was, quite frankly. I knew it was close, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And on my 30th birthday, I discovered the life expectancy was 28.
Wow.
Right? All through my teens and 20s, I was chasing that life expectancy. Then all of a sudden, I leapfrogged it.
How did that feel? What was it?
First thing that happened was like, I am such a dumbass for farting around 15 years of my life, worrying. Right? And I did great things. I traveled the country. I was the youngest director of sales for my company, but it felt a bit like a waste because I worried so much, making decisions on a faulty future. So, but then it was liberating. Like, oh my gosh, every fear I had, I was going to die, I was going to suffer, what girl would want to be with me, how could I provide value, were just absolutely shattered. Shattered! I wasn't dead, I was climbing 14,000 foot mountains, I was somehow popular with the ladies, and I was one of 40 directors of sales for a prestigious hotel company. That's a good life.
Amen.
And I was nowhere near suffering in death unless I didn't take my medicine, and then I suffered a little bit. So it was just life altering. And I made a promise that day. I was like, I am not ever going to let this effing disease dictate my life in such a negative way. So what was frustrating is I didn't know how to do that. Right? I had built a whole life around those assumptions, those 4 assumptions, and they were shattered. So I thought, how do I do something different? And that's what was frustrating, but also liberating. In any journey of change, any journey of pushing a little bit further in your life, like pushing the envelope a little bit, it's going to be a little painful. You're going to have the frustration, but it's always going to be coupled with excitement. And you have to learn how to manage the frustration and accentuate the excitement. Because the excitement comes from the purpose. And what I found as I started pushing into new areas of my life, particularly when I started coaching and writing the book, people wanted to talk with me. My son has cystic fibrosis. My daughter is dying of the disease. And I would have thought that that would have been devastating to me, but I was bulletproof from that very difficult emotion, because this purpose was, there was something behind that bad news, that very sad and tragic news, that I could give that family something. And I was the guy to give it. Because there's not very many people, only 5% of the population with CF are over 40 years old. I'm in a very unique place to give back to them. I'm an old guy, right? And I'm running marathons and I have a business and I'm an author. That is a lot for them to look up to, and it's not a burden. So the purpose frees me from the burden.
Man, I just have nothing but the utmost respect for you. Honestly, what you're doing is very, very noble, and it's a great purpose and a great cause. And it's not just, it's something that you're really fiery about. I can just sense it just by sitting, like I feel steam coming off. One thing I really want to ask. So, what's the best advice that you can give to someone that's in a hopeless situation?
The very first step is to believe something, amazing things are possible, right? And you don't have to think about the end goal, because the end goal it could just seem impossible. When I was coaching marathoners, we'd say, don't think about running 26 miles. Think about running the next mile, and then the next one, and the next one. Because you get so intimidated by that big, huge life change you have to make.
Yeah.
But the definition of a mindset that I like the most is the belief you hold about anything in your life, because that belief interprets the situation and tells you what to do. So if you're poor, believe you can break free from poverty. Just believe you can do it, because a lot of other people do it. If you're sick, believe that you can still have a great life and make an impact regardless of what the illness is doing, because sometimes we don't have control over that. But we do have control over the way we believe the thing that we want to give to the world. That is in our control, and that's a belief. So that's the very, very beginning. Challenge, if it's a negative belief, challenge it, and you'll start being free from it.
That is profound, my friend. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I have. Mike, I want to thank you for coming in and doing this and dropping some knowledge bombs for everybody here, all the viewers here in this community. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Okay.
Hell yeah, dude, that was fireworks, dude.